Hi, thanks for joining me. I am going to show you very quickly, as fast as possible, how I retouch this image. Now, the image that you see here was photographed by me. It's a local model named Elena, and I took her picture a couple of months ago. We got this antique robe, and as you can see, this kind of orchid flower in her hair. My girlfriend did makeup, and Elena was good enough to sit for us while I just kind of played with lighting. So anyway, how I usually do this is once I'm finished with the photo shoot, I'll import it into Lightroom, as you probably do, or your preferred software. I'll prep the file just to get the levels, like a good tonal range in the histogram, and then what I'll do with that, I'll import it into Photoshop. So most of you do that anyway. If you're retouching, that's probably your workflow too. Anyhow, so what I did is I retouched this from capture to finish, all me. This is the image that we started with. So I'll just turn off all these groups of retouching layers that we have here and show you what we started with right out of the camera, which was this. So there's a lot of groups and a lot of different layers that went into the final retouch, which is this. And I'm just going to show you quickly how I went about doing that. This is kind of the compressed version. I'm not going to actually retouch it, but I am going to turn off and on layers and groups so that you can basically get the gist of it. Okay, so what I have here is my retouch group. And this is a whole bunch of layers that I've created, and I have an action for this. And if you'd like the action, please email me, and if I get enough requests, I'll post it somewhere online where you can just download that action for yourselves. It involves a cleanup layer, which is this one here. I also threw a mask on to mask some parts out. So let me just turn off all the layers in this group, so we'll get right down to the starting image. Okay, so cleanup layer. Let me just turn that on. You can see what's happening here. If I zoom in, you can see it a little bit more. You can see what's happening here is I retouched all the blemishes, got rid of some of the shadows that were happening up here in her eye due to her eyelashes. I used a pretty hard light here. As you can see in the catch light, though, I did have a Retouch softbox, or a small octabank, that was just firing up as fill, and I had a harder light coming from camera left and above, so that creates kind of the look that you're seeing here. Anyhow, it did cast some shadows, so that's why I tended to get rid of those up here in her eye. You can also see there's some work done to her eyebrows and a lot of other places too. So that's with the clone stamp tool and the healing brush. Moving along with the dodge and burn layer, I worked out some of those shadows and inconsistencies. So that's with it off and on. Okay? A lot of fine-tune work here. I'll show you the layer as is. Zoom out. It's all the dodging and burning on that layer. I guess it might be helpful to show you the cleanup layer on its own too, which consists of that. Maybe that's helpful to some of you. So again, with those two main layers off and on again. Big difference already, but it needs obviously a lot more work. Now, sometimes when you're in a retouching workflow, you can't always remember, especially if you don't always name your layers very well, what each layer is doing, but I'll do my best just by visual reference here. I found her lip wasn't full enough on the left side, so I just increased the volume of that. That was a bit of a tricky one to do and needed some refining because the line looked too straight, so I had to blur it out a bit. As you can see here, I copied a part of her lip, and if I can zoom in here, just to bring back that highlight. So basically that was there originally, and I just used a different blending mode of hard light to make that area underneath stand out, and then I masked it off. So it was just that part appearing. Keep going with a hue saturation layer, and if I look carefully, see what that's affecting. Whoops, turning off the wrong one. That is just affecting the layer below it. As you can see, it's a clipping it's clipping to the layer below it. So I have that in its own separate group for lip color, and on and off with that little group, that's what it does. Okay, moving along to selective color. I found the lips were a little too dark, so I'm lightening them up. Again with the hue saturation. Now this should probably still be in the lip color, but I included it in a separate subfolder called lips. Moving along, it needed a little bit of fill down here in the bottom left of her lips. As you can see, I'm turning that on and it's filling that area. So let's close that group and keep going. Color, also affecting the color of her lips. Down here, very subtle adjustments. Screen. Now, I love working with screen and multiply layers. They're my new favorite thing to work with. Let me get out of there. I start using them as much as I do dodging and burning. And basically, if you're not familiar with the concept, it's just having a blank layer set to screen mode, and what you're sampling is actually colors. So you're going to come in here on a PC, you're holding Alt, I guess it would be Option on a Mac, and you're just holding Alt with the paintbrush tool selected, choosing a point. When you're doing screen, for example, if I wanted to fill in the shadow underneath, I'd choose a shadowy part and paint in with a very low opacity, something like 13% opacity and like 20% flow, and I just build it up. And it's a really great way to dodge. Subsequently, with multiply, it's a great way to burn using the same concept. As you can see here, I just darkened out her bottom eyelids a little bit and part of her lip. So moving along with that, I'll show you another dodge and burn layer that I included above. More of a carving layer, I guess, just to give it some dimension. So that is my main retouching group. Let me turn it off again and back on. So that's a good start, but it needed more work, and it needed more work in the eyes and brow area. So I created some more layers here, and let me turn on that group for eye and brow. See what was happening here that I noticed in this eye, camera right, I found it was a little high. After looking at it after retouching a bit, I said, is the right eye a little bit higher? And I determined that it was, and it needed to be kind of balanced and rotated out, which I really don't do too often when I'm retouching, but in this case it needed it. So as you can see here, I made a copy of the eye and moved it down and rotated it a little and masked it off. So just that, but then again, because I brought it down, I was left with a little bit of this eyebrow up here that was in a weird space. So the next layer, I just retouched that away with the clone and healing brush tools. And then I have another dodge and burn here just to give her eyes a little more definition. And alone you can see that's what that is. So those are the eyes and shadow. I'll turn that group off and back on again. And again with the original and our progress so far. So quite a difference already, but it needed a bit more. So I went to the liquify tool and I've cleaned up her lip and just fixed a bit of her brow up here. Maybe I'm too far zoomed out for most of you. Let me get in here for a bit of detail. You can see what the liquify is doing, more or less, affecting her eyebrows and that lip. Reshaped her mouth just to make it a little more shapely, I guess. Okay, zooming out again so you can see the image. Now, create another group for lips and eye bags. Turning that group on, this is what you get. Just getting rid of those dark circles under her eyes a little more, and cleaning up some of the shadows on the lips. See how it was kind of blotchy on the lips before? Well, I fixed that up. And in a nutshell, it included these steps. Dodge and burn, which kind of look like that, more dodging and burning. You can see some color on that layer too. I also used whatever this is. There's something going on in here. Sometimes I don't even know what I put on these layers. Sometimes I just create new layers just as I'm going along. Okay, this layer here is again affecting the bags in her eyes and the lip color as well. Above that, just a little more shading in the lips. Let me zoom in so you can see. Just like that. Okay, zooming out. Let's go back to hue saturation, where just a subtle adjustment was made. If I look at the mask alone, you can see what it's affecting there. Just treating a little bit of the discoloration under her eyes. That's getting really specific now. Left nose shadow. Watch for it. Got rid of it. Now, normally I wouldn't mess with the shadows and light too much, but I found that's starting to look a little distracting, so I just ditched it. And I don't think you really miss it. I didn't think it was doing too much for the image itself. It was just creating kind of a distracting point, so I got rid of it. If you really want to see what's in the folder, there's 2 layers. One is a screen layer set to 83% opacity, and the other is a color layer, just to bring back some of the color, painting with color, just to get rid of some of that discoloration that happened when I was using the screening. To lashes. Now, I don't usually add lashes. I try to ask the makeup artist to do that or have a concept for it before I begin, but I have lash brushes, and that's exactly what it sounds like, just different shaped brushes shaped like eyelashes, and with them on, that's what you get. So this is a little tricky. Let me show you. I have 4 lashes, as you can guess. One for one layer for this bottom, one for that, one for top, and the other for top. And this is what I have. So, create this one. I'll literally, on 100% opacity, without the airbrush thing selected, or the pressure sensitivity, I'll just do one click, or with my tablet, I'll just tap once, and I'll have a fully 100% opaque eyelash. And then what I'll do is I'll free transform it by hitting Control T, just like that, and I'll transform it. I'll warp it. I'll go to warp, like down here. I won't do it exactly, but I'll show you. I'll go to warp, and from there you can kind of mush it into place and get the contour of her eye. From there I had to add drop shadow, or it just wouldn't look too convincing. See, without drop shadow and with, it just gives it a little more dimension, stays true to the light. So applying it to, all I had to do was basically the same concept for the rest of the lashes, and then I just copied my drop shadow onto the rest of the lash layers, and that's what you get. See, if you're looking up here at her upper right lash, without the shadow and with, so it gives it some more dimension. Even if I zoom into 100%, you can really see the difference that drop shadow makes. If you're looking at her upper right lash again, see, without, it just looks like it's just there, but with, it gives a little more dimension, and I tried to stay true to this light source down here, the bottom right. Okay, so that is the lashes. I'm going to close that up, off and on again. Now, contrast. This just gave an overall contrast. I used a black and white layer, set to soft light mode, very low opacity. Let me just get rid of all those and show you what I did. Okay, black and white set to soft light, very low opacity. Then a gradient map. I love gradient maps. Set to soft light at very low opacity as well, just to give it a global bit of contrast. Brightness and contrast. As you can see, I have a layer mask there. I brightened it up at certain areas. Those areas. Just to make her cheekbones and her nose bone and forehead stand out a little more. Just give it an extra dose of dimension. Then again, the flower, I found it looking too dull. Let me zoom out here so you can see. I found it just, the yellow didn't pop, so there, now it pops. Selective color and hue saturation, just with careful masking. Show you the mask right there. I think I selected it with either the magic wand tool or just by hand, or with the pen tool. I can't remember exactly, but there's that. Now, group 2, I'm not sure what this is. Again, just a bit of contouring, it looks like, curves, and this layer contains, I don't know. Doesn't matter. Moving along. All it looks like that was doing is just more contrast. Finishing. Finishing. And this isn't a concept I'm going to get into right now. You can see the ghost, her ghost face there. That's just like almost like a pore tightening technique. And it works pretty well. Let me see if I can show you it with it off. Finishing off. And finishing back on. Not too much of a difference, but you can see the shadows here under her nose. I was seeing some blotchiness there, so I got rid of that. Okay. Can't see too much of a difference here with that layer on. Okay. Without getting too far into it, let me let me keep going here. Group 3. Again, more contrast, just to bring down the brightness of the image a tad. And there's something going on here with her eye. Yeah, just brightened up the outside of it, as you can see when I turn it off and back on again. Just brightens it up. And finally, the sharpen. So I did a global sharpen, which isn't usually recommended, but it needed just a touch, and then I did a specific sharpen. So these are with different radiuses. And I will get rid of that. I don't know if you can see this on compressed YouTube video. But let's see. There's the global. Not much of a difference. And specific sharpening. Yeah, you can see a bit of a difference there. At least I can. Maybe it's not so obvious to you guys, but a little subtle sharpening will definitely make your image pop. So there it is. That is the retouch. Those are the processes and that I went into. I didn't cover getting rid of the veins in her eyes, but that was also part of the initial steps with healing and cloning. So, again, before and after. Wait, after. Thanks for watching.